Dream of the Red Chamber, Chapter 117.
Think about a time when you've experienced like a moment of just intense, crystal clear personal epiphany.
Oh, yeah. One of those really massive realizations.
Exactly, like life-altering stuff where the universe suddenly, clicks into place and your priorities align perfectly
Right.
and you've just finally grasped exactly what you need to do with your life. You feel this incredible anchoring internal stillness.
It's a great feeling.
It is. But okay, imagine that. And then you look up and you realize that while you were having this profound spiritual awakening, the actual physical room you are sitting in has literally caught fire.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like the ceiling is visibly caving in and everyone around you is just screaming in sheer panic.
Right. It creates this ultimate psychological dissonance, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because the internal world achieves this perfect harmony and clarity, right? But it happens precisely at the very moment the external world plunges into absolute unmanageable chaos. And it's a tension that basically forces a person to choose.
Yeah.
You have to choose between saving your soul or, well, saving your skin.
Yeah, and that terrifying, just strangely beautiful tension is the exact premise of the source material we are exploring today. So welcome to...
Glad to be here for this one. It's a heavy one.
It really is. So for you listening, we are looking at chapter 117 of Dream of the Red Chamber, which is also known as Honglemeng.
Right.
And if you are familiar with the story, you know it is a pinnacle of world literature. But the specific chapter on our desk today, it feels less like a traditional classic novel and more like the spectacular, catastrophic season finale of a prestige television drama.
Oh, absolutely.
It is the moment where every single safety net is suddenly violently cut.
We are examining this dual track of, well, collapse and awakening.
Right.
Because on one hand, we have the central character, Bao Yu, and he is standing on the precipice of this profound spiritual detachment.
Like a complete break.
Exactly. A complete permanent severing of his earthly ties. But simultaneously, literally under the same roof, his family, his sprawling estate, and the entire socio-political structure that kept them insulated for generations.
All of it.
Yeah. All of it is structurally and morally decaying at an astonishing speed. So we will be unpacking this irreconcilable conflict, right? The eternal spirit versus the immediate crushing weight of money, status, and physical safety.
And what makes this so gripping, to me at least, is that these two worlds aren't just like drifting apart quietly, they're actively colliding.
Head on.
Yeah. So let's jump right into the first scene in our sources because it really acts as the spark for this entire chain reaction.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we have our protagonist, Bao Yu. And he's inside the family compound when he hears a report of a monk outside the estate gates. And Bao Yu, he just sprints out to meet him.
He doesn't hesitate at all.
Not at all. Now, the text is very deliberate in describing this monk. He isn't serene or majestic or, glowing with holy light.
Far from it.
Right. He has a head full of scabby sores and he is dressed in filthy, tattered rags. But despite that, Bao Yu instantly recognizes him from a near-death experience he had in the past.
Which is such a striking visual contrast right off the bat.
It is, and it made me wonder, why use such a grotesque figure to trigger a spiritual awakening?
Well, it's actually a really common trope. In the Chinese literary and spiritual tradition, particularly within, like, Taoist and Buddhist narratives, the appearance of the ragged, dirty, seemingly mad ascetic is a massive philosophical signpost.
Oh, really? So it's deliberate?
Entirely deliberate. It signals to the reader, and obviously to the protagonist, that the superficial reality we all sort of agree to participate in is about to be challenged.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because true enlightenment in this tradition, it doesn't arrive wrapped in pristine silk robes.
Or accompanied by a choir of angels.
Exactly. It comes covered in mud and scabs precisely to test the seeker. It's a test to see whether you can look past the illusion of the material world. If you are repulsed by the filth, well, you are still bound by earthly judgments.
Wow. Yeah, and Bao Yu certainly doesn't seem repulsed, but he does try to test the monk right back.
He does. He pushes back.
Yeah, because the monk starts the interaction by just flat out demanding 10,000 taels of silver.
Which is wild.
So Bao Yu hears this and essentially thinks, a true holy man wouldn't care about a mountain of silver. Let me probe him to see if he's the real deal.
Right. He tries to outsmart him.
He does. So Bao Yu drops some really heavy esoteric terminology. He asks the monk, "Are you from the illusion realm of Great Void?"
Which is so arrogant, honestly. Bao is trying to speak the secret password of the enlightened, basically.
Like a secret club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the illusion realm of Great Void, just for context, is a foundational metaphysical concept in the novel's mythology. It is essentially the cosmic origin point.
Right.
It's the realm where the fates of all the characters are recorded before they are even born into this dusty, suffering world of mortals. So Bao is basically asking, are you an immortal agent from the realm beyond our reality?
And the monk's reaction to that grand metaphysical question is what I find so fascinating. He completely deflects Baoyu's intellectual posturing.
He doesn't engage with it at all.
Not even a little bit. He waves away all that esoteric jargon and says something to the effect of, what illusion realm? It's just coming from where I come from, going to where I go.
Love that.
Yeah, he just refuses to play Baoyu's philosophical game. And then the monk pivots and delivers the question that literally changes the trajectory of the entire novel. He simply asks Baoyu, where did your jade come from?
Oh, that question. That single question acts as the catalyst for everything that follows.
It's massive.
It is.
Yeah.
Because we have to remember, for you listening who might not know the deep lore, Baoyu was miraculously born with this magical piece of jade in his mouth.
Right, as a baby.
Yeah. And for his entire life, it has been his defining symbol. It represents his identity, his special status, and honestly, the Jia family's immense hopes for his future. Society has essentially told him that he is the jade.
He and the jade are one and the same.
Exactly.
And when the monk asks where it came from, Baoyu is utterly speechless. The source text literally describes the realization hitting him like a blow to the head.
And that phrase, that blow to the head, is a very specific classic Buddhist metaphor for sudden enlightenment.
Oh, like a physical strike.
Yeah, exactly. In Chan, or Zen Buddhism, the master might literally strike the student with a stick.
Wait, really? Just hit him.
Yeah, the idea is to shatter their conceptual rational thinking, to jolt them out of it. And so the monk's question here, it fractures Baoyu's attachment to his own ego. He realizes this terrifying truth, which is that he doesn't even know his own origin. He doesn't know his true self. He has spent his whole life carrying around this rock, believing it was his soul, and suddenly he sees it for what it is.
Which is just a rock.
Just a rock.
And that sudden realization, I mean, it triggers absolute bedlam inside the house. Because Baoyu's immediate reaction is to tell the monk, keep your 10,000 taels of silver, I'm just going to give you the jade back.
Which is the last thing anyone in the family wants to hear.
Right. He sprints back to his room to grab this immensely precious magical object with the full intention of handing it over to a filthy stranger at the gate. And this is exactly where the physical reality of the household violently intercepts his spiritual journey.
It gets so physical here.
It really does. He grabs the jade and he runs face first into Xiren, his primary maid. And I need to paint this picture for you listening because it is not like a polite philosophical disagreement. It is a desperate physical struggle.
Brawl, honestly.
Yeah. Xiren tells him he absolutely cannot give the jade away because the jade is literally tied to his life force. They believe that if he loses it, he will fall deathly ill again, which, to be fair, has happened before.
Right, they have precedent for this fear.
Exactly. But Baoyu replies with this chillingly detached line. He says, I have a heart now. What use is the jade? And then he tries to physically force his way past her.
And we should notice the philosophical distinction he is making there. I have a heart now.
Right.
He is separating his internal consciousness, his true mind, or his spirit, from the external object that society dictates he needs in order to survive. He is actively rejecting the material anchor.
But, I mean, Xiren isn't engaging in a philosophical debate about material anchors.
No, she's panicking.
She is terrified out of her mind. The text describes her wrapping her hands tightly around Baoyu's belt, just refusing to let go. She's sitting on the floor, weeping, screaming that if he gives the jade away, he will die, and she will die along with him.
It's so intense.
It is. She says, unless you want me dead, you can't have it. And Baoyu actually pushes her, like physically pushes her, but she holds on through the pain.
And then the other maid jumps in.
Right, Zihuan gets involved. Now, Zihuan is another maid, and she's usually known for being quite aloof and composed. But she completely loses her cool here.
Yeah.
She runs out and physically tackles Baoyu. She wraps her arms around him so he cannot move toward the door.
The imagery there is just so profound to me. You have a young man desperately trying to walk away into the metaphysical void, right, to sever his earthly ties.
Yeah.
And he is literally, physically anchored to the ground by the fiercely clinging hands of the women whose entire social and physical survival depends on him staying in the material world.
It's such a heavy metaphor. But let me pause here and play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Because reading this scene, I actually felt a strong reaction against Bayou. Like, isn't he being incredibly selfish? I understand he's having a spiritual awakening, but we have Jiren sobbing on the floor in genuine emotional and physical agony because she truly believes he is walking out to commit suicide. And Baoyu just coldly looks down at them and says, if you're making this much of a fuss over a piece of jade, what are you going to do when I, the person, actually leave?
It's a vital tension to highlight.
Mm-hmm.
Is Baoyu being selfish? Well, if we evaluate him within the framework of the material familial world, the answer is unequivocally yes.
Right, he's being a jerk.
Totally. He's abandoning his filial duty, his responsibilities to the estate, and the people who have dedicated their lives to loving and serving him. So yeah, in that sense, selfish. But if we evaluate him through the broader spiritual philosophy of the text, Baoyu's detachment is actually the only sane response to a world built on illusions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because the tragic irony of this physical struggle is what they are actually fighting over.
Yeah.
Jiren, Xiaowan, and later the older authority figures like Lady Wang and Baochai, they're all fighting for the object.
The jade itself.
Yes. They place ultimate value on the jade because, in their societal math, the jade equals Baiyu's survival. And his survival ensures the family's stability, which guarantees their own safety and status.
Oh, I see. I was actually thinking about it like a hospital setting. It's as if the jade is a life support machine for the entire Jia family.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. As long as that machine is plugged in and humming, the family has a heartbeat, they have political viability, they have a future. But to Baiyu, who has just had his eyes open, that life support machine is suddenly revealed to be a heavy anchor, dragging him down into a suffocating swamp of worldly attachments.
A highly accurate comparison. And Baiyu explicitly calls them out on this dynamic in the text. He tells them, you value the jade over the person.
He actually says that.
He does. He recognizes that they are clinging to the symbol of his worldly status, not his true spiritual self. They have absolutely no concept of the enlightened person he has become in the last 5 minutes. They just desperately want to retain the rock that underwrites their social standing.
That makes a lot of sense. So eventually, all this noise and screaming draws the adults into the room. Lady Wang, who is his mother, arrives, along with Baochai, his deeply pragmatic wife.
The heavy hitters.
Yeah, the heavy hitters show up. And Baoyu is outnumbered. He realizes he cannot win a physical wrestling match against all these women. So he pivots to a completely different tactic. He uses a very clever, very worldly lie.
It's so unlike the new enlightened Baiyu.
Right. He suddenly calms down and says, oh, you misunderstood. I was just going to trick the monk. I was going to pretend the jade was fake so he wouldn't want it anymore and would leave us alone.
And it works perfectly.
Instantly, the temperature in the room drops. You can almost hear the collective sigh of relief. The women think, a practical, cynical, deceptive solution. We understand that language.
Exactly. The lie pacifies them because it operates entirely on the logic of the material world. You know, using deception to protect valuable assets. That's a language they speak fluently. And Baochai, ever the pragmatist, immediately steps in to secure the victory. She takes the jade directly from Baoyu's hands and says, don't even go back out there. The adults will handle the monk and pay him off. Baochai's tactical maneuver wins the immediate skirmish.
But Baoyu wins the strategic war.
He does.
Because he simply lets go. He walks away empty-handed, leaving his mother and wife clutching the rock. And later on, the maids report back to Lady Wang about the strange things Baoyu and the monk were yelling to each other out at the gate.
The weird cosmic terms.
Right. They report hearing terms like Great Wasteland Mountain, Green Sickness Peak, and Severing Earthly Ties. Now, just for you listening, Great Wasteland Mountain and Green Sickness Peak are the mythical cosmic locations where the jade originally came from before it was brought to Earth. So Baoyu is mentally traveling back to the cosmic forge.
He's tracing his roots back to the very beginning.
Exactly. And Lady Wang hears these terms and is utterly confused. It just sounds like total madness to her. But Baochai hears this report, and the text notes she is terrified. Her eyes go wide, and she is struck speechless.
Because Baochai is highly educated. She recognizes the Taoist and Buddhist terminology.
She gets it.
She absolutely gets it. She understands that severing earthly ties isn't a phase of teenage rebellion or, a temporary bout of madness. It is a permanent, irrevocable exit from the social contract.
Wow.
She realizes in that very moment that while she successfully confiscated the physical piece of jade, She has completely and utterly lost her husband. He is mentally evacuated the premises.
He's just gone. But the irony is, while Bao Yu is philosophizing about evacuating the social contract, the actual physical reality of the Jia estate is urgently, violently demanding attention. The real world doesn't pause for his enlightenment.
It never does.
No. Which brings us to the next massive shift in our sources.
Yeah.
The sudden vacuum of leadership. Because while Bao Yu's eyes are turned toward the cosmos, the ground beneath the family compound is literally crumbling.
The timing is catastrophic. Just as the spiritual anchor is cut, the structural pillars of the family are yanked away.
Yeah. Lian, who is one of the few somewhat responsible adult men left managing the sprawling affairs of the family, rushes home with devastating news. He has just received an urgent letter. His father, Qiaojie, caught a severe cold which has rapidly progressed into consumption.
Which is what we now know as tuberculosis.
Right. And he is on his deathbed.
And we must pause to understand the gravity of this. In the Qing dynasty, a diagnosis of advanced consumption was an absolute death sentence.
There was no curing that.
None. Furthermore, the impending death of a patriarch isn't just a private family tragedy. It triggers a massive, legally and socially mandated logistical response.
Oh, because of the mourning protocol.
Exactly. Lian, as a dutiful son, is required to drop everything, leave the capital immediately, and travel to his father's side to manage the medical care, the inevitable funeral rites, and, crucially, the shifting of the estate's power dynamics.
He has absolutely no choice but to go. But before he leaves, he seeks out Lady Wang for this desperate, hurried conversation. He begs her to look after his young daughter, Qiaojie.
He's so worried about her.
He is. He specifically notes that Qiaojie is stubborn, she has a tough personality, and she needs fierce protection while he is gone. And as he's pleading with Lady Wang, Lian starts listing off the people who are no longer around to help. And it's a deeply unsettling moment in the text.
It really paints a bleak picture.
Yeah, he points out that the estate is rapidly emptying out. Like, the loyal, capable servant Bao Yang is gone. The chaotic but wealthy relative Xu Pan has moved out. And then he drops a very specific, ominous piece of information.
About Miao Yu.
Yes. Miao Yu, the aristocratic nun who lived in the Longqi Abbey right inside their own private garden, has mysteriously vanished without a trace.
And the disappearance of Miao Yu is a massive crack in the foundation.
Because the garden was supposed to be safe.
Exactly. The inner garden was supposed to be impenetrable. And Lian attaches a very explicit panicked warning to this news. He tells Lady Wang to do whatever it takes, employ any deception necessary, but keep Miao Yu's disappearance an absolute secret from Qichen.
Okay, let's talk about Qichen. She is one of the young, aristocratic women of the Jia family, and she has recently been showing signs of intense religious devotion. So Lian is terrified that if Qichen finds out the abbey is suddenly empty, it will act as a trigger, pushing her to abandon the family and become a nun herself.
Which is his worst nightmare.
Right. Let's dig into that panic, because to a modern listener, this reaction feels completely disproportionate. We hear Lian warning about this, and Lady Wang emphatically agrees, saying essentially, what kind of monstrous family are we if a perfectly good aristocratic girl becomes a nun? It's unthinkable.
Yeah, to us it sounds like an overreaction.
A huge one. Why is everyone so profoundly terrified of this outcome? In a modern context, you listening to this, choosing a life of religious contemplation seems like a peaceful, highly personal choice. Why is it treated as a fate worse than death, or like a crisis on par with a dying patriarch?
It is a critical cultural gap we need to bridge here. To understand their terror, you really have to understand that the entire social and political architecture of the Jia family, and Qing dynasty nobility in general, is built upon a very rigid interpretation of Confucian filial piety.
Okay, so it's systemic.
Deeply systemic. In this system, an aristocratic daughter is not an independent individual with a right to self-determination. She is, structurally speaking, a vital socio-political asset.
Wow, an asset.
Yes, her ultimate duty to her ancestors and her parents is to be married into another family of equal or greater status, to forge political alliances, consolidate wealth, and bear children to continue those ancestral lines.
So she is quite literally a chess piece on a political board.
Precisely. To abandon the family and shave her head to become a nun is to permanently remove herself from the board. It severs that filial duty entirely. In that highly structured society, it is viewed as a public, aggressive declaration that you are rejecting your parents.
Oh, so it's taken as an insult.
A massive one. You are turning your back on your ancestors and violating your core societal obligations.
Yeah.
And for a family of the absolute highest nobility, like the Jias, Having a daughter enter a convent implies something terrible to the outside world.
Like what?
Well, it implies that the family is either too financially ruined to arrange a proper marriage, or that the internal dynamics of the household are so toxic and abusive that the girl had to flee to a monastery just to survive.
Oh, so it's a huge PR disaster.
Exactly. It brings massive, irreversible public shame. It's an act of social self-destruction that damages the reputation and marital prospects of every other member of the clan.
Okay, that completely reframes the entire conversation. Qiaojie isn't just worried about his relative spiritual well-being. He's trying to prevent a public relations catastrophe that could sink their remaining social capital. And he's trying to do this all while he runs off to deal with his dying father.
He's spinning too many plates.
Way too many. It feels like Qiaojien's departure is the equivalent of a demolition crew removing the last load-bearing pillar from a rotting building. With Lian leaving, and the older patriarch Jia Zhang already stationed far away, we have to ask, who is actually left to run this massive, incredibly complex and wealthy household?
And that leadership vacuum brings us to the spatial metaphor at the heart of this section.
Yeah.
You mentioned the emptying of the estate earlier.
Right.
Earlier in the novel, the Grandview Garden was the vibrant, beating heart of the story. It was this lush sanctuary of poetry, youth, innocence, and insulated beauty. But now, it is being rapidly hollowed out.
It's turning into a ghost town.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The physical decay and emptying of the spaces they inhabit perfectly mirrors the impending collapse of the family's fortunes and their moral center.
And, as they say, nature abhors a vacuum. Because the people left behind to fill that empty space, well, let's just say they are not the A-team.
Barf.
Yeah. We move from the inner quarters, where Baoyu is having his spiritual crisis, out to the outer study. With the capable patriarchs gone, the daily management of the estate defaults to two younger men of the clan, Jia Yun and Jia Qiang. Let's think of them as the corrupt middle management of the Jia Corporation.
That's the perfect way to describe them. And their ascension to power marks a steep, immediate descent into absolute debauchery.
It is genuinely wild to read. It's like the worst kind of substitute teachers taking over a classroom, except these teachers aren't just letting the kids slack off. They are actively pawning the school's computers out the back door to line their own pockets.
They're completely plundering it.
Exactly. Instead of stepping up to manage the family's precarious financial and social affairs, Yun and Qiang turn the outer study into a full-blown den of vice. They invite in terrible, predatory relatives like Xing Dajiu and Wang Ren, along with a cadre of spoiled, entitled servants.
Just the worst crowd possible.
Yeah, and they spend their days gambling heavily, drinking themselves into a stupor, and plotting how to extract whatever wealth is left.
We must heavily contrast this environment with the scene we just analyzed regarding Baoyu. The author's juxtaposition here is deliberate and stark.
Oh, because of what Baoyu is doing at the same time.
Right. While Baoyu is in the inner quarters wrestling with the ultimate nature of reality and seeking to sever his earthly ties, these men in the outer study are happily, greedily drowning in earthly vices. They are the parasites consuming the dying host of the family.
And the conversations they're having around that gambling table are utterly toxic. They aren't just drinking, they're actively tearing down the legacy of the family from the inside out.
Gossip is their currency.
Yeah. For instance, Jia Yun starts gossiping maliciously about Baoyu. He claims that he recently set up a fantastic, highly advantageous marriage match for Baoyu with a beautiful girl from a wealthy family. But according to Yun, Baoyu rejected it.
And of course he invents a terrible reason why.
Of course. Why did he reject it? Yun tells the table that Baoyu has a secret, scandalous obsession with his second aunt, meaning Wang Zhifeng. And even worse, Yun casually throws out the claim that everyone knows Baoyu caused his true love, Lin Daiyu, to die of lovesickness.
This specific gossip is a horrific weaponization of tragedy.
It really is, and it made me wonder about the nature of this gossip. Is Jia Yun just a bitter guy making up lies because Baoyu never gave him a job? Or is this actually how the outside world perceives Baoyu's tragic, deeply nuanced romantic history?
It's a great question.
Because we, as readers or listeners, we know the immense poetry, the spiritual connection, and the heartbreaking tragedy of Baoyu and Daiyu's relationship. It's the emotional core of the epic. But to these corrupt middle managers in the outer study, is it really just cheap tabloid fodder?
It functions as both, honestly. Yun is certainly deeply bitter. He feels entitled to Baoyu's patronage and resentful that he's been ignored. But on a thematic level, it reveals how completely the sublime has been dragged in the mud and degraded into the vulgar.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because the delicate spiritual bond between Baoyu and Daiyu is entirely incomprehensible to these men. So what do? They reduce it to a cheap, salacious scandal. It demonstrates that the men now running the estate have absolutely no capacity to understand anything beyond base desires, financial transactions, and cynicism.
Wow.
They represent the complete moral decay of the patriarchal line.
And nothing captures that cynical decay better than the joke that gets told during their drinking game. This is, without a doubt, one of my favorite details from the source material because it operates on so many levels.
It's brilliant.
So they are playing a drinking game, getting absolutely plastered. Qiaojie, one of the terrible relatives at the table, loses a round. As a penalty, the table demands he tell a joke. And he tells this incredibly pointed, bizarre story about a turtle general.
It is a masterful piece of meta-commentary embedded right in the middle of a scene of debauchery.
It really is. Let me walk you through the joke exactly as Qiaojie tells it. He says, there's a village temple dedicated to the Emperor of Heaven, but it has a major security flaw. It keeps getting robbed by local thieves.
Right.
The Emperor of Heaven is furious and summons the local Earth God to demand an explanation. The Earth God says, well, your temple's feng shui is terrible. The wooden doors right behind your statue are broken, so thieves just walk right in through the back. You need to build a solid brick wall behind you to block the entrance.
Which is solid advice.
Sure, but there's a problem. The local gods are broke. They have no money for bricks and no money to hire labor. So the Turtle General, a minor deity who serves the Emperor, steps up to offer a solution.
Here we go.
He says, I have a brilliant idea. We'll take the broken doors off their hinges entirely. At night, I'll stand in the doorway, face the altar, and press my giant turtle belly against the opening. From the outside, the back of my shell will look exactly like a solid, impenetrable wall.
A very clever, highly cost-effective, and deeply lazy solution.
Right.
Yeah.
So they implement the plan. But a few days later, disaster strikes. The temple gets robbed again.
Of course it does.
The emperor is enraged and calls the Earth God back to the temple. The Earth God goes to inspect the new security measure. He walks up, rubs his hand against the turtle's shell, and says, oh, I thought this was a real wall. I had absolutely no idea it was a fake wall.
It's so good.
And when Qiaojie finishes the punchline, everyone in the outer study bursts into uproarious laughter.
But it is not just a drunken ramble to pass the time. That joke is a biting, devastating critique of the very men sitting around that table laughing at it.
Because they are the fake walls.
Precisely. The men in that study, Yan Kang, Wang Ren, and the rest, they have been tasked by the departing patriarchs with protecting the Jia family estate. They are the walls meant to keep the thieves, both literal and metaphorical, out of the inner sanctum.
But they are completely hollow.
They are fake walls, offering the comforting illusion of protection to the women inside, while actually allowing, and in many cases actively participating, in the robbery and dismantling of the estate.
And the robbery they are participating in isn't just about skimming silver from the treasury or, pawning antique vases. They are casually discussing the sale of human beings.
This part is so dark.
It is. While the drinking continues, one of the companions at the table brings up a rumor he heard in the city. He mentions that there is a powerful prince from a province outside the capital who is actively looking to acquire a new concubine. And this companion hints, very strongly and deliberately, that a young aristocratic girl from a fallen noble house, like, for example, Lian's young daughter Qiaojie, would fetch an incredible, life-changing price from this prince.
And what elevates this moment from mere gossip to something truly chilling is the specific reaction of Wang Ren.
Yes, Wang Ren.
Wang Ren is Qiaojie's maternal uncle. By every law of familial duty and human decency, he is supposed to be her ultimate protector, especially now that her father, Lian, has begged for her safety and left the capital.
Right. He should be shutting this down instantly.
But he doesn't. The text explicitly notes that when the companion mentions selling an aristocratic girl to the prince, Wang Ren does not speak up in outrage. He doesn't shut the conversation down. He just takes silent note of this.
That silence is deafening. It's the sound of a ticking time bomb being armed. Remember, just a few scenes ago, Lian was practically in tears, begging for Qiaojie to be protected because he knew the house was full of vultures. And here's her own uncle, silently sitting at a gambling table, doing the mental math on how much silver he can extract by trafficking his own niece.
It highlights the most sinister undercurrent of this entire section, which is the casual, brutal commodification of human life. The Jia family has ceased to function as a structure of mutual support and protection.
It's just a marketplace now.
Exactly. It has devolved into a black market where the vulnerable members are harvested by the powerful ones for quick cash.
So these guys are sitting in their little insulated bubble in the outer study, drinking their wine, laughing at their jokes, and plotting their betrayals. They think they are the apex predators getting away with everything. But the real world, the world with actual severe systemic consequences, is about to kick the door off its hinges.
The reckoning arrives.
It does. The bubble bursts violently. While the gambling is in full swing, some high-level servants from the Lian Lin families arrive from the capital with shocking news. The first piece of intelligence is absolute political dynamite. Qiaojie has been arrested.
This is massive.
It is. Now, to understand why this matters, we have to look at who Qiaojie is. He is a high-ranking government official. He's been a frequent, honored guest of the Jia family. The servants report that Yukon has been stripped of his rank and arrested for massive corruption, extortion, and oppressing the common people.
And the worst part.
Right, the most terrifying detail. The emperor himself is reportedly furious about Yukon's boundless, unchecked greed. But the news the servants bring gets worse and much more visceral.
It goes from political to very violently physical.
It does. They also bring intelligence regarding a recent crackdown on coastal pirates. Apparently, a group of pirates was captured by the military, and during the interrogations, a horrific rumor surfaced. The rumor is that a pirate had kidnapped a young, beautiful woman from a noble house in the capital, smuggled her all the way to the coast, and when she fought back and resisted him, she was brutally murdered.
And the men in this study, armed with the knowledge that Qiaojie the nun has vanished from the garden, immediately put two and two together.
Right. They casually, almost clinically deduce that this murdered woman must be Qiaojie. And this is where my blood ran cold reading this source.
This is an awful moment.
Sitting right there in the room is Qiaojie. He is Baoyu's younger half-brother, a legitimate member of the core family. When the table concludes that Qiaojie has been violently kidnapped from their own home and murdered in a horrific way by pirates, Qiaojie's reaction isn't shock. It isn't sorrow.
It's the exact opposite.
He maliciously rejoices. He literally says out loud, "Good, I hope it was her."
Which is just beyond comprehending.
And why? Why is he cheering for this?
Because she was a snob. Because in the past, she favored Bayou's company and didn't treat Juan with the deference he felt he deserved. He is actively cheering for the brutal, terrifying death of a woman simply because she bruised his ego at a tea party. The absolute callousness of that moment is staggering to read. But from a narrative standpoint, it perfectly illustrates the complete evaporation of a moral center within the family.
Yeah.
Qiaojie's petty vindictiveness over perceived social slight completely supersedes any basic human empathy.
Think about the massive juxtaposition the author has built for us here across the estate. Deep in the inner quarters, we have Baiyu wrestling with the ultimate nature of reality, trying to sever his earthly ties to find spiritual purity. Out on the road, we have Lian weeping as he rides desperately to try and see his dying father one last time.
Right.
And right here in the study, we have the supposed future leaders of the family getting drunk, gambling, and cheering at the news of a woman's violent murder.
It represents the total fragmentation of the family unit. There is no shared reality anymore, no shared moral code. As the text explicitly notes a bit later, everyone was living their own life and no one would take charge of anyone else.
It's a free...
Exactly. The structural collapse has created a moral vacuum. And when the protective structure fails so completely, the people trapped inside it are forced to make desperate, radical choices to survive.
But in a house this chaotic, with servants running in from the capital shouting news about pirates and arrests, and men screaming over gambling debts in the study, secrets don't stay buried for long.
The pressure cooker cannot hold. It finally explodes in the middle of the night.
Yes, at 3 a.m., absolute bedlam erupts in the inner quarters. Qichen, the young, religiously inclined sister we discussed earlier, gets into a massive, explosive shouting match with her sister-in-law, Yushi. And Qichen doesn't just argue, she escalates the situation past the point of no return.
She takes drastic action.
She takes a pair of scissors and physically hacks off her own hair.
And we must pause and heavily contextualize this act, because cutting your hair in a modern context might just mean a dramatic makeover after a breakup.
Right, like getting bangs.
Exactly. But in Qing Dynasty China, hair is a sacred inheritance from one's parents. The body, including the hair and skin, belongs to the ancestors.
And you don't mess with it.
Never. To cut it is a profound, almost unthinkable violation of filial piety. It is legally and socially viewed as a mutilation of the ancestral body. By violently hacking off her hair, Shipud is not just changing her appearance, she is permanently, physically severing her identity as a woman of the Jia family.
She is declaring herself dead to the secular world.
Precise.
And she takes her hacked-off hair, marches directly to the highest female authorities, Lady Wang and Lady Xing, and demands to become a nun. But let's be clear, this isn't really a request. It's a hostage situation.
It really is.
She tells them that if they do not immediately give her a quiet, isolated room to practice Buddhism and leave her alone, she will commit suicide right in front of them. She threatens to slash her own throat or hang herself if they try to force her back into her societal role.
I want to compare Qichun's act of severing to Bayu's act of severing in the very first section we discussed.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because Bayu's detachment, sparked by the ragged monk, was internal. It was philosophical and quiet. He was slowly letting go of the jade and his mental attachments to the people around him.
Very zen.
Yes. But Qichun's detachment is entirely different in its mechanics. It is violent, physical, desperate, and incredibly loud.
It's like Baoyu is sitting quietly, slowly untying a complex knot, and Qichun just walks up and takes a machete to it.
Exactly the right image. And this forces us to ask a difficult question about her motivations. Is Qichun's drastic action purely driven by a pristine spiritual devotion, or is it a pragmatic, calculated response to the horrific environment we just analyzed?
That is exactly what I was wondering. I look at Qichun's actions, and I compare it to someone pulling the fire alarm in a burning building while everyone else is still sitting around the dining table arguing over who left the stove on.
Yeah, she sees the fire.
I mean, look at the reality she is surrounded by. The men in the outer study, her own relatives, are literally plotting to sell off the young girls of the family to external princes to cover their debts. Miaoyu, the only other visibly religious figure she knew, and someone living in their supposedly secure sanctuary, was just kidnapped and murdered by pirates.
Right.
The patriarchs are dying of consumption or being arrested for corruption. The emperor is coming for them. Qichun is a highly intelligent girl. She sees the absolute toxicity and physical danger rapidly closing in on her. Is becoming a nun simply the only escape hatch available to a woman in this doomed household?
You are hitting on the critical duality of her character. It is both. Her spiritual inclination toward Buddhism is genuine and well documented in the text, but the violence and timing of her execution are absolutely rooted in a pragmatic desire for self-preservation.
She's saving herself.
She is. She sees that the fake wall of her family's protection has completely fallen. If she remains a Jia woman, she knows exactly what will happen to her. She will be sold as a concubine, married off to a brutal family to settle a political debt, or left utterly unprotected when the imperial guards inevitably raid the estate.
It's a terrible hand to be dealt.
So by becoming a nun and mutilating her hair, she removes herself from the economy of the household. She purposefully destroys her own value as an asset to be traded. She makes herself useless to the corrupt men in the outer study, which tragically is her only possible method of surviving them.
And speaking of those men in the outer study, Lady Wang and Lady Xing are absolutely terrified that Qichun is going to follow through and kill herself in the courtyard, bringing even more disaster on them. So they call in the men in charge, Jia Yun and Jia Chang, to handle the crisis. And what do these strong, capable leaders do when faced with a life or death situation?
They exhibit absolute pathetic cowardice.
They really do. They walk in, see Qichun screaming with a pair of scissors and her hair chopped off, and they immediately backpedal. They say, "Oh wow, this looks like an inner quarters problem. We can't possibly make decisions regarding the young ladies."
So weak.
They instantly wash their hands of the entire crisis. Their only thought in the face of a young woman's threatened suicide is legal liability.
Which is so telling.
They agree to draft a letter to Lian and the other patriarchs far away, essentially saying, hey, just so you know, Qichun went crazy and we didn't authorize it, so don't blame us. They are completely, staggeringly useless.
It perfectly fulfills the prophecy of the turtle general joke.
The fake wall?
Yes. When the thieves actually break in, or in this case, when massive internal crisis actually hits, the fake wall offers zero resistance. They just retreat into their shells to protect their own bellies.
So what happens to Qichun?
Well, ultimately, because the men refuse to lead, it is Yuxi, the sister-in-law whom Qichun was fighting with, who has to take the blame.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. To prevent Qichun from slitting her own throat, Yuxi steps up and says, fine, blame me. Tell the world I was a cruel sister-in-law and I forced you out.
That is a massive sacrifice.
It is. She absorbed the massive societal sin of allowing an aristocratic girl to become a nun, sacrificing her own reputation just to keep Qichun alive. It is a desperate, messy, tragic compromise.